Hello. This set of daily language program sentences, or DLPs, will cover sets number 13 through 16 in our first collection. So let's take a look. The Renaissance was a great cultural movement that begun in Italy in the early 1300s, lasting some 200 years. Well, our verb needs to be that began in Italy, but let's see what our main problem is right here. The modifying phrase lasting some 200 years is right next to 1300s, and the 1300s did not last 200 years. A century only lasts 100 years. So what lasted the 200 years? Well, it was the Renaissance. So I've got to take that participial phrase and move it up to the beginning. Lasting some 200 years, comma, the Renaissance was a great cultural movement that began in Italy in the early 1300s. Number two, the name comes from the Latin word renascere that means to be reborn. Okay, when we have a foreign word in an English sentence, we italicize it if we're typing, we underline it if we're handwriting. And then our closing punctuation right here, I've told you before that people outside of the United States writing in English, this is how they do it. But in American English, we put our periods and commas inside the closing quote. So it's reborn, period, close quote. The goal of capturing the spirit of ancient Greek and Roman cultures were the aim of Renaissance artists and thinkers. Well, we already said something was the aim of it, so we probably don't need the goal of and the aim of. So we could just start with the word capturing with a capital C. Capturing the spirit of ancient Greek and Roman cultures, that's one thing, so was, not were, the aim of Renaissance artists and thinkers. Unlike the medieval thinkers who viewed society as evil, that's a pretty long introduction, so comma after evil. The Renaissance thinker saw it as a civilizing force. Okay, set number 14. The majesty of the human mind and body were important themes of the Renaissance. Well, majesty is your subject. It's singular. So no matter how many aspects you have there, how many objects, the prepositions you have, you go back to your subject. So the majesty was an important theme of the Renaissance, and capitalize Renaissance as the historical movement. If you mean Renaissance in a generic sense, meaning rebirth, like she had a Renaissance in her grades, she went from D's to B's, then it's a little odd. But it is a capital R if we mean the historical period called the Renaissance. Unlike the stiff figures of medieval religious art, Renaissance artists painted natural, lifelike figures. All right, so let's see. It's not the Renaissance artists who were unlike stiff figures. It was the natural, lifelike figures who were unlike stiff figures. So you may want to say, capital R, Renaissance artists painted natural, comma, lifelike figures unlike the stiff figures of medieval religious art. Renaissance art was dominated by three artists, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo da Vinci. There are two different ways to do this to make an active sentence. You could say, three artists dominated Renaissance art, colon, and then the names. Or you could just start with the names. Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo da Vinci dominated Renaissance art. 4. Because he was an artist, an engineer, and performed science experiments, Da Vinci typifies the Renaissance man, a person whose interests know no bounds. Well, at the end there, we have the incorrect homonym. Whose, like that, means who is, and that's not what we want. We want possessive case, W-H-O-S-E. But we have a parallel structure problem in the beginning. He was an artist, a noun, an engineer, a noun, and a scientist. So that would be another noun to match. Set number 15. The Faust legend illustrates a common theme in Western literature, the urge to go beyond normal limits of human power. For an informal situation, a dash would be okay there after literature. In a more formal situation, more formal writing, we use a colon right there. In the original legend, Dr. John Faustus, capitalized doctor, sold his soul to the devil in order for to receive knowledge of magic. Many times in English, our old expression in order to or in order for is rarely needed. Most of the time we can just drop it out. Let's try it. Sold his soul to the devil to receive knowledge of magic. So that sounds fine by itself. Misplaced modifier. Faust is a Renaissance hero whose aim is to realize their full potential at any cost in Christopher Marlowe's play. It'd sound better to start out in Christopher Marlowe's play, comma, Faust is a Renaissance hero whose aim is to realize his full potential at any cost. And the last one here, for set number 15, Faust's desire for knowledge. In conflict, there's our problem with our fragment. They left out their verb. Faust's desire for knowledge was in conflict with the medieval view that salvation should have, not of, should have been his main concern. And then our final group for today, Marlowe drew inspiration from the classics, for he bring, bad word, Renaissance learning to his plays. It is a compound sentence, so we need classics, comma, for he brought Renaissance learning to his plays. Make the modifier active voice. His plays, in which great learning was blended with deep emotion, show zest for life, not coldly formal. That's a messy sentence. So if we make the second part active voice, his plays, comma, which blended great learning with deep emotion, comma, show zest for life. We have a parallel structure problem here, not cold formality. Dr. Faustus's mind is torn among the desire for worldly knowledge and the consciousness of human limitations. It's torn between two things, so between the desire for worldly knowledge and the consciousness of human limitations. C-O-N-S-C-I-O-U-S-N-E-S-S. But I want you to take a look at Faustus's. The Modern Language Association used to have various rules about when to put apostrophe after an S or when to put apostrophe S after an S. Now the rule is it's okay to put apostrophe S after a name ending in an S always. So it might look better to you just with the apostrophe, and that would be okay. But apostrophe S is also allowed now for any proper name already ending in an S. This is sure a tragedy that retains its power and meaning for modern audiences. We need an adverb. This is surely. Tragedies misspelled T-R-A-G-E-D-Y. That retains, and it's right there means it is. That's the wrong homonym, and so, or homophone. And so we should have ITS power. Okay? So that is a review of sets number 13 through 16. Again, you may not necessarily need all in this set. Depends on how far the class has gotten in any week as you go back and review. You know, if you only need number 14, then play the one that just has number 14, okay? But I'm going to do these in sets of 4, so they'll be ready in the library here, in our YouTube library on Google Classroom. Whenever you need them, they'll be there, all right? Have a good day.